ليلة عظيمة مباركة يسن فيها الإكثار من الصلاة على سيد عمل صالح. This night of Jumu'ah, it's a blessed night. There's a lot of barakah in this night. The sunnah is to increase your salah upon the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام in every good deed. يروي الإمامان البخاري ومسلم كلهم في صحيحه عن عبد الله بن عمرو، ويروي الإمام أحمد والإمام الترمذي بسند صحيح عن فضالة بن عبيد عن النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. The hadith tonight is narrated both in Bukhari and Muslim and then again in Ahmad and Tirmidhi and a few others. And the reason that I say that is because the hadith, in each narration there's something extra that's not in the other one. So just to put in there, and they all the hadith are authentic, so putting it together is not a problem. And the theme that I'm covering with you, that I'm sharing with you over these nights is prophetic definitions. How the Prophet ﷺ defined certain terms. And I find that these definitions are very important. And when I was in university, myself and a friend of mine, we wrote a paper on this, and we just put all of his definitions together, ﷺ, and he actually draws a very unique understanding of life. And this hadith is a very famous one regarding his definitions. There's at least four or five definitions of this hadith. I'm not going to cover them all in depth, but I'm going to read the hadith for you and then maybe point out a few of them for you to think about. But he did this, what I'm trying to get you to pay attention to or to acknowledge, that the Prophet ﷺ would do this. He would define things. Like he would take a term that people would use commonly and then he would define it. So that you as a Muslim, you now had an understanding of it. Other people will define it in whatever way they want to define it. But then we as Muslims, through his teachings, ﷺ, have a definition that is unique to us as Muslims, how we understand the world. And I think that goes, it's an important part of being a part of this ummah. And in this hadith, he defines actually Islamic terms. So the hadith I've shared with you so far, he defined generic terms, general terms that are used publicly in the Arabic language. He defined the word al-kay, the good one, al-kayyis, the good person, al-ajiz or al-ahmaq, the foolish or the fool. He defined the word al-wahn, weakness. He defined kibr, arrogance. These are words that were used in Arabic, understood by people regardless of their faith. But tonight, no, he's going to define other things. So he says, alayhi salatu wasalam, in the hadith of Ahmad, he would start by saying, in the hadith of Fadala, أَلَا أُخْبِرُكُمْ مَنِ الْمُسْلِمِ, should I tell you who the Muslim is? And they would say, Bala ya Rasulullah. And then he would give these 4 or 5 definitions. I'm patching this hadith from both Bukhari and Muslim and Ahmad and Tirmidhi, just so that if you go look back and go look for these hadith, you'll find that they're narrated in 2 places. قال المسلم من سلم المسلمون من لسانه ويده والمؤمن من أمنه الناس والمهاجر من هجر ما نهى الله عنه أو من هجر الذنوب والخطايا والمجاهد من جاهد نفسه في طاعة الله. He defined for us, alayhi salatu wasalam, 4 extremely important terms that we use often to define, understand ourselves, understand the world around us. So this is how and I'm fascinated by the first definition. The other 3 are easy, but the first one is extremely interesting. When the Prophet ﷺ wanted to define, and there's no other way to understand this hadith, I'm sorry, but no matter where you look or who you listen to, there's no other way to understand this way of speech, where the Prophet ﷺ says, al-Muslim this, al-Mu'min this, al-Muhajir this, al-Mujahid this. He is defining. What else is he doing, alayhi salatu wasalam? He's explaining to us what his expectations are of someone who walks around carrying the name. Like if you acknowledge the name or you claim it, you claim that you are Muslim or you claim that you are mu'min or muhajir or mujahid or whatever, he's defining it. So for example, the word muhajir, when we think about it, we're thinking of a sahabi who got out of Mecca, Suhaib or whatever, Rumi, and they went to Medina and they suffered the losses and they suffered the difficulty of the journey. The Prophet ﷺ is saying, yes, that is the muhajir in my context. In the context of these 30 years or 23 people living with me. The context of these, actually less than that, because Hijrah started in year 10 of Bi'tha, and it ended technically when Fath Mecca happened in the 8th year, right? So really maybe 10 years, or 11 years tops if you want to be technical. 11 years where Hijrah was going from Mecca or a tribe that you were oppressed into Medina. But that's a contextual understanding. The Prophet ﷺ says that the word muhajir is actually meaningful in Islam. Why? Because in the Quran everywhere, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَهَاجَرُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَهَاجَرُوا وَجَاهَدُوا, everywhere. So are we going to forever only understand the word hajar as something that was contextual to 11 years of his life, alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, no. Muhajir is a much bigger word, and then he defined it. Al-muhajiru man hajara ما نهى الله عنه ومن هجر الذنوب والخطايا. The muhajir is the immigrator, or the immigrant, or the person who immigrates or migrates, is the person who walks away or migrates away from sin, from ma'asiyah, from mistakes, from disobeying Allah, from that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us not to do. And that's what a muhajir. A muhajir is who leaves that lifestyle behind and walks away from it. A true muhajir is the one who said, this lifestyle is wrong, it's garbage. No one should live like this. I shouldn't live like this. Is all wrong. This whole thing, I'm going to walk away from it. I'm going to go towards Allah. So I'm going, wherever that may be, whether that's a physical movement or an intellectual or mental movement, or whether it's a social, I don't know, but it's a hijrah because you're leaving behind a lifestyle. He defined it for us, alayhi salatu wasalam. Why? So that you can be a muhajir too. So you spend the rest of your life thinking, well, I missed out. If I was there, I would have, either been living in Medina or doing hijrah. You can still do hijrah. But when he defined Islam, and I just want to point out that piece and I'll let you go. He said, Al-Muslimu man salim al-Muslimun min lisanihi wa yadihi. Is the one who Muslims, people around him, salimu. Silm is peace. Salim is for someone to be at peace with something, or for someone to be protected from harm. Salimat yadak, may your hands be protected from harm. So salim al-muslimuna min lisan, meaning Muslims, they are protected from harm. Min lisanihi, harm that comes from his tongue, wa yadihi, harm that comes physically from him. A Muslim is defined by someone who never, ever harms others. Never harms others. This is how he defines them, alayhi salatu wasalam. I want you to think about that long and hard. Because yes, we have a theological understanding of what it means to be Muslim, and there's all these things. To enter Islam, you have to say this, you have to believe that. If you don't believe this, then you leave, and all these other technicalities. Him, alayhi salatu wasalam, defining whose definition you want, mine or his, alayhi salatu. Honestly, had anyone else said this, it would have been refuted and rebutted and refused. But because he said it, alayhi salatu wasalam, for Sahihain, we have to listen to it. Man salim al-muslimuna min lisanihi wa yadihi, is the person who others are protected from any harm that can come from his. Al-mu'min man aminahu الناس. And the mu'min is the one who people feel safe around. Allah. People feel safe around him. It's like if they're scared, they'll go and seek refuge in the vicinity of that person, because he'll never hurt me. He would never betray, he would never harm, he would never take advantage. He would never jump or pounce on my vulnerability or the moment where I can't defend myself. I'm safe there. I'm not safe elsewhere, but I'm safe with him. Allah. Wallahi Jameel. This is his definition, alayhi salatu wasalam. He didn't spend time explaining the technicalities of creed that I do in the Aqeedah course, for example, where this is what it means. He jumped immediately to the conclusion, to the outcome. Right? What is the outcome? What is believing in all of this going to lead to? A Muslim, if he actually becomes Muslim, then he'll be someone who never harms others, ever. The first question he asks himself is, am I harming people? I don't harm. I don't cause harm. I will never cause harm. And a mu'min, a higher level, is the person who everyone feels safe around. We can come to this person. We can be around them. They won't learn something about us and tell other people. They won't backbite. They won't remind us one day later on of the moment where we were down and we came to them, and they'll rub it in our face. No, I'm safe. Allah. It's such a big concept, wallahi. And it's a huge thing for some people to feel safe around you, actually safe. Understand how rare that is. Yet there's so many, technically there's so many mu'minun. We're the ones who we can all feel safe around, and there's nothing to worry about. The muhajir is the one who leaves. والمجاهد من جاهد نفسه في طاعة الله. Because what mujahid is in the Quran everywhere. Jahadu. Well, what if you can never carry a sword in your life, or you're not someone who's equipped to be in combat, or you didn't live a lifestyle where this was what you had to do, or where you can still be a mujahid, because al-mujahid man jahada nafsahu fi ta'atillah, as the one who strives against the whims and desires of himself for the sake of obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are his definitions, alayhi salatu wasalam. Wallahi, these are not equipped. I feel ashamed to share four of them in a khatera, when each of them is like maybe a series of khutbahs to go into the depth of understanding. But I'm just offering it to you as food for thought, as things he defined, alayhi salatu wasalam, in one sitting with the Sahaba, to remind them, this is how I define a Muslim. So if you carry the shahadat al-tawheed and you have the long lihya and you wear the taqiyya and you have the gallabi and you sit, but you do not care about how you affect other people. If others can't be safe around you, then what exactly was the point of any of it? يروي الإمام البخاري والإمام المسلم كلهم في صحيحه، والإمام الترمذي في جامعه، والإمام أحمد في مسنده عن عبد الله بن عمرو وعن فضالة بن عبيد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم: ألا أخبركم من المسلم؟ قالوا بلى. قال: المسلم من سلم المسلمون من لسانه ويده، والمؤمن من أمنه الناس، والمهاجر من هجر الخطايا والذنوب أو هجر ما نهى الله عنه، والمجاهد من جاهد نفسه في طاعة الله. صدق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. سبحانك وبحمدك، لا إله إلا أنت، استغفرك وأتوب إليك، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك وعظم على